I have flown the previous Mavic Pros 1 and 2 all over the world. Almost literally all over the world. And I was really curious how this much more portable, lighter, significantly smaller, and kind of looks like a toy Mavic Mini would compare to those Pros. I've been flying it around Washington State for the last couple of weeks, and I just returned from Alaska where I spent about a week flying it in incredibly frigid weather, and I'm ready to share some thoughts. So this drone is just 249 grams, which means you don't have to register it on the FAA website, but you do still have to follow most drone laws, and it has built-in geofencing, which means you may not be able to fly in some locations, and you have to stay under 400 feet when flying here in the US. And while it looks an awful lot like a miniature version of the Pro drones, it's certainly missing a few features. First up is this little camera is not capable of 4K, or at least it isn't currently. It shoots 2.7K at 25 or 30 frames per second. Now I'm sharing this video out at 4K, so click that little quality icon, watch this at 4K. I've upscaled these clips. I think video quality is quite good, especially in good light, and still very usable in lower light. Stability, I'm super impressed with how smooth the footage is. I see really not much difference from the much more expensive drones until you get up towards the max wind speeds that this can handle. On the photo side of things, JPEG only, no RAW, which that can be limiting in some situations, but the exposure compensation and manual shutter speed help. Overall image quality is good. It's not amazing. It's similar to what you'd get from a good smartphone a few years ago. And this drone does not have obstacle avoidance. This is a bummer. I mean, this is a beginner-friendly drone at a beginner-friendly drone price, but without obstacle avoidance, it means that beginners are going to be more likely to crash. Now, the good news is these drones do really well in crashes. Even with obstacle avoidance, it's happened to me. I speak from some personal experience. The only thing I've ever had to do after a crash with a DJI Mavic Pro is replace a prop or two. And that brings up another small bummer. This tiny little screwdriver that they provide, it actually looks like any small Phillips head screwdriver, is needed for replacing the props. So it's just one more thing to remember to bring along in your kit. Again, though, I think any of those eyeglass repair kits will also be available to you, and that helps. But again, it's just something you need. So right when you're out in the field, if you crack a prop, you're going to need that screwdriver with you. It also doesn't have any active track features. That's where the drone will follow you. But there's a little bit of a hack. We'll come back to this in a minute. Now, the remote itself is simpler than you see on the Pro versions. We don't have a screen on it, and the connection between remote and drone is Wi-Fi. This can mean your range for flying and getting a clear video signal may vary greatly depending on where you live and the amount of interference there. In Alaska, I saw ranges easily over a mile. I flew this drone over 7,000 feet away from me. That's I'm impressed. For such a small, lightweight drone, the connection stayed rock solid, the video feed stayed rock solid. But here in my backyard in Seattle and out in the harbor, 600 to 1,000 feet seems to be the norm. Now, the good news, that return to home feature works really well. So if it gets out of range or the interference becomes really strong and it loses that connection, the drone is simply going to turn around and return to where it took off. It does that very, very well. What I do find challenging, though, is the interference causes the feed to catch or stick. So the drone is still moving, but what you're seeing on your screen freezes for a second or two. If you're trying for smooth cinematic movements, well, it's tough to judge those movements when that's happening. So, no 4K, no obstacle avoidance, and Wi-Fi connectivity that may limit the range depending on where you live. That's the bad news. But let me tell you what, this little drone continues to surprise me. It has a truly amazing flight time of close to 30 minutes. You've got 3 different flight modes, from the very zippy sport mode to position, which is useful for general flight, and cinematic, which then slows all of the movements down and makes it possible to get smooth cinematic video quite easily. That also could be fun to switch into as a beginner, because then it responds so nicely and smoothly and slowly to you, you're less likely to crash. Now, I often pull a drone out on workshops to get a little bit of the behind the scenes of all of us shooting whatever we're capturing wherever we are, and they're a lot of fun to talk to people about. The first question that I commonly get is, are they hard to fly? No. These things are so easy to fly, this one especially. You turn it on, you wait for GPS lock, and then one button press to take off, and then it just sits, waiting for you to move the sticks. It is very, very easy. Just give yourself lots of space at the beginning, maybe switch to that cinematic mode, keep the altitude low. And one other quick tip for the first time you fly, set the return to home altitude to 120 feet. This makes it much more likely that your drone is going to rise above any obstacles on its way back home to you. And the other question I get is about the wind, because with a little bit of breeze, it can often feel like it's too windy to fly. But truthfully, I've flown these drones in very windy conditions, and as long as you are careful and smart, like don't fly it downwind till it's 50% battery, remember that the wind is stronger the higher you go, and again, leave plenty of battery to spare, you're going to do fine. Now, this drone is rated at 17 miles per hour, and that's where I start to see the end of the really smooth footage. But I've already flown it with winds over 20 miles per hour, and as I said, your footage might not be quite as stable, but it handles it. In sport mode, the top speed is about 30 miles per hour. Keep that in mind on windy days. If you're flying with wind speeds of greater than 30 miles per hour, then your drone is literally going to blow away. But as long as you're under that, and more is better, then you should do all right. As I mentioned earlier, no active track, but the Mavic Mini does provide a couple of quick shot modes that ask you to choose your target at the beginning of them, so it can circle or do the straight up shot. And what I've had some success doing is starting the quick shot mode, where you draw your target, and then start to move while the drone is quick shotting. And voila, some clips that can certainly look like you have an active track drone or hired someone to follow you with fly the drone for you. I wonder if they're going to add a more true active track like feature in firmware updates. But for now, using that hack, although the entire clip might not be usable, you can certainly pull out a piece of it and string those together for some better results. So I know I hit you with the drawbacks up front in the video and comparing this Mini to the pro level drones, but at this price point, this size and weight, this is an impressive little drone, and it's certainly going to become part of my toolkit when creating travel videos. I really thought I'd feel more limited by this drone than I have, but it just continues to perform really, really well. Switch to sport mode or positioning to quickly get where you want, and then you can flip over to the sign mode and you get those lovely smooth cinematic shots. And I love that you can even customize the gimbal pitch speed for smooth movements. A few other features that I love, well, easy to charge via USB while on the go, and if you pick up the Fly More combo that gives you this battery charging pack, you can charge this via USB, or this can become a portable pack itself with an out USB. Now, I'm planning a very minimalist trip to Thailand in a few months. Being able to reduce my kit with products that do kind of double duty, I like that. I appreciate it. So I've got links to buy along with a couple other recommended accessories. I do like spending a little bit more for the Fly More combo 3 batteries is really nice, plus the charger, so you can be charging while you're flying. And you get the prop guards, which those are useful inside. Outside, I never really use them. But if your budget is tight, you can get just 1 spare battery. But just remember, you're going to be charging in the drone only, which is a bit limiting, though again, 30-minute flight time, it's certainly workable. I've gone on trips with other drones and had just 2 batteries and made it work. So I've got some drone flying tips and 2 older reviews. I'll link those down below along with all of these products to buy and the recommended accessories. Your use of those links certainly helps this channel out. If you're on the fence about this drone or maybe spending a little bit more for the Mavic Air, which does have obstacle avoidance, it does shoot RAWs, I would actually say skip that and move up to the older Mavic Pro for that OcuSync technology. That connection means rock solid for extreme distances between your remote and your drone. I think that's worth a little bit more. I'll be happy to answer any drone questions you have. You can leave those in the comments right down below. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram for more photography, drone, and travel tips and tricks. Or subscribe and hit that little bell too. A reminder that right now I'm offering a huge discount for my photography community. Tons of resources for photographers of all levels. Check it out at photorec.tv/pen. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.